Hello again, fellow travelers in faith, on the journey toward the kingdom. Another gospel story from Matthew. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. The richness of the gospel. And when you read St. Matthew, it has so many miracle stories. And they included them so that we may believe. You know, the whole discussion, which came first, the Bible or the church? In the Protestant community, in all our evangelical community, it's just the Bible. Well, the Bible came from someplace. The Bible was created and born out of the early church, out of the Christian community. When they recounted the life of Christ and they wrote down these stories, they wrote them down in order for the message of Christ to continue. And they would gather together and they would break bread, meaning the Eucharist, the communion, after singing psalms. And then they would tell stories of the life of Christ. They were later transcribed and became the part of the Bible. The Bible was born out of the living experience of the church. It was a community that produced this book, contrary to, let us say, to the Book of Mormon or the Quran or any other so-called book, religious book, that were born out of the fantasies of a person. This was born out, it's the community that bore witness to the truth of these stories that actually happened. They were witnesses. I mean, there were those that saw and touched and felt and heard and were excited by these actions of Christ. I mean, Christ was so serene and so beautiful that when he saw or heard or was called upon, like in the example of the two blind men, it said he touched their eyes. And he asked them, "Do you believe that I could do this?" And they said, "Yes, we believe." And he simply, gently touched their eyes. And they saw. We need to have Jesus touch our eyes too. That the eyes of our souls see reality as it is today. In the context of Christ, the living Christ. We are blind to what's going on around us. Truly blind. I don't know, I think about these things all the time. we are glorified in our wealth, in our richness. And yet, how many of us don't see the person around us who is in need of our love and our help? I know many people that give big money to charity. And if a person came up to them and said, you know, I could use a little bit of help, I lost my job, they don't hear them. I heard of a couple, some brothers who had a step-grandmother. And her husband had died, and she lived down to so many years. And they went to her when she turned 75. And I'm talking about multi-millionaires, multi, with their own planes, etc. Came to her at 75. He said, well, it was in the will that we only are supposed to support you until you reach 75. When I heard that story, I went out of my mind. They throw money away like you can't believe, but they couldn't stretch out and take care of that woman until she died, the woman who took care of their grandfather after their grandmother had died. A wonderful woman. And she lived down to be, she lived down some years because she was, quite healthy. And she ended up living basically almost in poverty. Well, her grandsons are multimillionaires. Isn't that a blindness to kindness? A blindness to love? No, what was important? The text of the will. Not the love that they could have for this woman who cared for their grandfather during the years of his life, after his wife had died. His first wife had died. See, there's all kinds of blindness, but we don't think about that, do we? We think about physical blindness. But there's another thing called spiritual blindness. And I think in our age, we truly are very spiritually blind. And there are no more blind men than those who run our country. They have removed God from our world. They've lost sight. We're no longer a city on the hill. We're rather in a dump. And the young people that have rebelled, they don't realize why there's a rebellion. Because we've lost our way. Please show me an authentic leader. They're blind. They're blind to power. It's all about power. They were elected for the people to serve them, not the other way around. To serve the people. See? That's a blindness. There's a blindness in the leaders of our country. Very bad blindness. Their blindness is so bad it hurts. And it's affecting this nation. My goodness, when we grew up, we felt we lived in the most beautiful world possible. Today, all I hear about is people being depressed and upset and disappointed, and then you keep hearing about suicides among the young people. This is not a diversion, by the way. This is because in our search for power, we were blind to the needs of our youth. They became desolate. So if you're in a position as a parent, listen to your kids. Don't be blind to what's going on with your children. See the quality of blindness? It varies. Oscar Wilde once said, "The genius of Christ is that he understood the weakness of the leopard. He understood the brokenness of the broken man. He understood the weak and the sick. And he understood the strange poverty of the blind, of the wealthy. He penetrated that blindness. He could do it today too. It's just not about, what's in the Bible is not something from yesteryear. It's something for today. To open our eyes and to get rid of the demon in our heart, the darkness in our heart. Let Christ come in. We're called upon. In every gospel story, every miracle story is a call to action. Can you hear? Do you hear? And do you take action? A famous man once wrote, "The road to holiness necessarily passes through the world of action." Action. As we say in the liturgy, let us commend ourselves and each other unto Christ our God, to open up our hearts and our minds, and to heal us from every darkness, every darkness. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. If you like this video, please hit the thumbs up button on your iPad, your iPhone, or whatever. Put also the subscribe button. Please subscribe and push the notification so you'll know when we do these videos, when they come out. Thumbs up, subscribe, notification. Remember those three things, and I'd be very grateful. God bless you.